Today on the Jimmy Z Show, I'm very happy to welcome Herman Cain. He is the former GOP primary candidate for president. And Herman Cain, welcome to the Jimmy Z Show.
Thanks, Jimmy Z. Happy to be with you.
You know, there's a lot to talk about in the time we're allotted, and I'm so happy to have you on the show. I think the first place we should go is talk about how the Republicans can win in November, because that's job one.
Here's what the Republicans have to do in order to win, and they can win either with Romney or with Gingrich, and until after Super Tuesday, we're not sure who the nominee is going to be. Number one, they've got to keep the base excited. Right now, the base is losing enthusiasm, and I think one reason for that is because of all of the negative attacks on each other. I know that they've been advised to do that in order to try to get the nomination, but I think it's having a negative effect on the base, because even the turnout in Nevada was down, the turnout in New Hampshire was down, and that's a very bad sign. So we've got to get people re-excited about coming out and voting. Secondly, we've got to have a message. Our nominee has got to have a message that resonates with moderates and independents. And right now, not all of them have a real crisp message about solutions to problems, which is one of the reasons that I was so successful when I was still a candidate. Mm-hmm. We can appeal to Christians and evangelicals, and we can appeal to the youth vote. I'm making a concerted effort on my part to visit college campuses. I have a number of events coming up because we've got to keep the youth vote excited. And people can find out more about what I'm doing in that regard at CainConnections.com. And here's the other one, Z. Disgruntled Democrats. I have heard a lot of voters' remorse about their disappointment with Obama, and I've heard them say that if the Republicans will put up somebody that they could at least be a credible candidate, that there's a good chance that they might cross over. That's what we've got to do. But the biggest thing is we've got to create some excitement, and the negativity is taken away from the enthusiasm of the base.
I think one of the most dangerous things about negative campaigning is that once you begin and fully immerse yourself in it, it's very hard to pull out. It's very hard to stop that trend, and all three candidates need to pull back and start talking about what their ideas are. And in fact, it wouldn't hurt to talk about the areas where they agree, because, like you said, once we lose the base and the conservative base, the Republican base, starts to become disenchanted, we have a big problem getting them back involved again.
You're right. I mean, it's almost like they're waiting to see who's going to blink first. Well, in this case, they need to all blink at the same time such that we can stop killing people's enthusiasm. But you're absolutely right. The other thing that I believe that we need to do is we've got to, hopefully we'll have candidates down ticket that will also create some excitement. Remember when Mark Rubio ran in Florida? He created a lot of excitement. Colonel West, they created some down-ticket excitement, even though John McCain didn't win. We've got to have those kind of candidates, hopefully, as well, for both the House and the Senate side, because we've got to maintain control of the House and gain control of the United States Senate. So I'm encouraging people, don't just look at who's at the top of the ticket. Let's make sure we also have some exciting candidates down ticket.
I want to ask you, without getting into the disappointments in your campaign, I would like to get your general feeling about your experience running for president of the United States.
My general experience was very positive, because my message of specific solutions, bold solutions, was resonating with the people. That's what made the difference. And that's why I believe that for 4 weeks I was number one in the national polls. But then the ugly side of politics came out, Jimmy Z, and that was the dirty gutter politics. And I made a decision to put family first, because when the media decided that they were going to spin those false character accusations over and over and over, it was too painful on my wife and my family, which made it painful on me. If it only affected me, that's one thing. I could have stayed in the ring and kept on boxing, but no. When it starts to negatively impact your family, then I had to make a decision. But generally speaking, I found it very rewarding. And let me tell you one of the other things. The American people are very receptive to bold ideas. And the American people, categorically, most of them, categorically see Washington as being broken, and this nation being broke, but it's as if those on the inside, the political elites, the establishment, it's like there's a big disconnect. So I learned a lot from that standpoint, but I was also exhilarated by the response that I got from the people for the bold ideas that I put on the table. So overall, it was a great experience.
When you talk about the American people being receptive and open to hearing your message, Herman Cain, presidential candidate, I think that you're not just talking about Republicans and conservatives. I think Americans across the board, Republicans, Democrats, liberals, conservatives, moderates, everyone is open to a well put together message that has America's future in mind.
I believe you're absolutely right. There again is where the people in Congress and this administration are missing the boat. Harry Reid says compromise is the art of politics in Washington. Well, if we keep compromising, this is why we don't fix anything.
Yep.
And the American people are sick of that. And what we have discovered with the Obama administration is his idea of compromise is do it my way. All this rhetoric he talks about reaching across the aisle. He want to work with the Republicans. Let's find areas where we can agree. If you will note some of the things that he's agreed on, it's if you do it my way, he calls that compromise. And that's why we have so many of these heated debates that are going on in D.C., and they're going to continue certainly throughout this year. And so as a result, not a whole lot is going to get done that's really going to stimulate this economy, because this administration is in denial by thinking that we are in a recovery. We are not in a recovery. The private business sector is creating a few jobs despite what this administration is doing, not because of what this administration is doing.
What really bothers me is the decrease in the workforce in America. And I want to get your comment on that. But before I ask that, what you said resonates with me because I've said it many times on my show. When Obama says, let's compromise, when Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi say, let's compromise, that always means let's do it our way.
Right. Exactly. They say that such that they can try and make the Republicans look like the bad guy. Obama has already talked about he wants to do certain things and immediately said, but it may not pass because of the do-nothing Congress.
Yeah.
Democrats control the Senate, and for the first couple of years, they control the Senate and the House. But yet he wants to play this blame politics, because he realizes that his ideas represent nothing more than what I call a hodgepodge of little ideas. Nothing really bold. He keeps talking about we need to give this economy more time. He needs another 4 years. For what? Another $15 trillion in spending? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back and correct myself, Jimmy. Another $5 trillion that we've added since he's been in office?
Yeah.
We're going to spend some more? We're going to come up with some more stimulus plans that don't work? You want to force some more legislation down the throats of the American people? No. I don't want 4 more years of that, and most of the people most of the regular folk that we run into, they don't want 4 more years of that. And that's what we're up against. And that's why I'm encouraging people, don't get discouraged. Because if people say, I'm not going to vote, that is a vote for Obama. If people say, well, my candidate didn't get the nomination, so I'm not going to be involved, that's a vote for Obama. Make a decision. You want 4 more years of Obama, or you want the best that the Republicans can put up, and to be perfectly honest with you, whoever is the nominee is going to be a whole lot better.
Is it just me, or is the rhetoric that Obama is now using in his campaign for re-election pretty much the same thing he was saying when he was running for president in 2008?
Yes. Jimmy Z, when I was on the radio, I had the painful responsibility of listening to his State of the Union addresses. They were very painful for me to listen to him.
Mm-hmm.
He has said the same thing 3 times.
Yeah.
He just repackages it. That's all. I'm sitting here going, we've been to this rodeo before. We've heard this rhetoric before. You're exactly right. He is campaigning. And you mentioned something else that had to do with the the unemployment numbers, because I went back and took a look at those along with a bunch of other people. They are manipulating the figures, the numbers, the size of the workforce in order to make the unemployment rate look like it's going down. The participation rate has gone down. And when you add back in all of those different groups that they have pulled out to make the number look smaller, the real number of unemployment is over 15% when you really count all of the unemployed and the underemployed and all of these other categories that they're pulling out. It is basically duping the American public. And the thing that bothers me is that it has to be coming out of the Labor Department, which is Obama's Labor Department, which means we've got systemic manipulation of the numbers here for political purposes, and that, Jimmy, is a very dangerous thing.
Well, look, you and I could sit here and we could talk for hours about the problems we face. But I think a better place to go, you mentioned your website, CainConnections.com. Yep. And I think that I would like to spend some time with you talking about solutions, because you are going to be involved in seeing America turn the corner and start heading into a path that starts solving some of these problems. And you have some of these plans, some of these mechanisms that can be put into place and begin turning the country into being productive again. So I want to talk about CainConnections.com, and I think I'll let you start with what you find most important there.
Our biggest domestic problem is that this economy is still anemic in terms of growth. That's why I developed, along with my staff, my 999 plan. It's solid. It's been analyzed. It's been scored both statically and dynamically. It works. But yet you got the critics who don't want my plan to pass because they want to maintain the status quo. It will get this economy growing at the rate of 5 to 6% the way it should. It would cut the unemployment rate in half. See, what I have learned, Jimmy Z, is that you got a lot of people who don't really want to solve some of these problems.
No.
They really don't. They want the status quo to stay just where it is.
Well, they are empowered by the status quo.
They are empowered by the status quo. You're absolutely right. So that's number one. The second thing is energy independence. We have the resources. Obama said in the State of the Union address, we have drilled and gotten more oil in the last year than we have in the last 5 or 6 years, or whatever that statistic was. We're still not becoming less dependent on foreign oil.
No.
That number, that might be a true statistic. Oh, he could say that if we got one thimbleful of oil more to say that we got more, but it's not solving the problem. So turning this economy around, number one. That's why I proposed the 999 plan. Secondly, energy independence. Look what Iran is doing. Our gasoline prices are already starting to go up based upon the speculation that Iran does something stupid and close the Strait of Hormuz. This puts us in a national security situation that we really shouldn't be in. So this is why energy independence needs to be a reality. The third thing is what I call sound money and regulatory reform. Inflation is a silent killer of our economy. We need to make a dollar as good as gold today, next week, next month, and next year. But because of many of the policies of the Federal Reserve and the policies of all of the excessive spending, the value of the dollar is going down, which is also hurting our economy. So those top three priorities, if we did nothing else but those three the right way, replace the tax code, get serious about energy independence, and make a dollar in terms of sound monetary policy with regulatory reform, this country would be off to the races.
Well, I'm happy to have you here today because I do have, criticism is probably too strong a word, but I've had a big question about the 999 plan, and
yes.
I think you've addressed this before, but I've never heard it myself. There are those who say, and I'm among them, that we always have this problem in Congress where one day there's going to be a similar situation to where Obama's first 2 years in office, where he had a Democrat majority in the House and the Senate, and they could do pretty much anything they wanted. How do you prevent 999 from becoming 10-10-10 or 12-12-12 or 14-14-14?
The power of the people because of the visibility. If you look at the current tax code, we get taxes raised, and we get it put to us, and sometimes we don't even know it. The visibility of 999 is what will cause the American people to raise their voices if members of Congress start talking about they're going to raise the rates. That's really the bottom line. Visibility. Right now it's been estimated 82,000 pages or however many pages we have in the tax code. We don't know what's in it. They basically change the tax code all the time, and we never see it because of the regulatory freedoms that they take. So the visibility of it is what keeps it from going up. As one of my friends put it this way, the tax code doesn't raise taxes, politicians do. And so we have to keep their feet to the fire, and the way we keep their feet to the fire is with something that's simple, transparent, with a lot of visibility.
So simplicity makes it more transparent. It's the complexity of the tax system today that makes it almost impossible for the average American to keep up with what Congress is doing with our tax rates.
Absolutely, because over 70% of us, and that number may be closer to 80, 70% of us can't fill out our own tax return because of the complexity of the current system. And you're going to tell me we know when they're raising taxes on us? No. Let me give you an experience that I had back in 1993 when they passed one of the largest tax increases in our history. I didn't realize that they had passed a surtax, which is a tax on the tax that you're supposed to pay. Yeah. And when my accountant told me this, I'm going, what in the world is a surtax? He says, well, you calculate your taxes according to all the rules, and then they put in another little sweetener here called a surtax in order to help fund this or bring down the debt, yada, yada, yada. I didn't even know it was in it. It didn't make the 6 o'clock news. And this stuff happens all the time because of the complexity of the current code. Simplicity helps with transparency, which also helps with fairness.
You know, you're right. A lot of these things happen, and the common taxpayer doesn't know until he sits down with his tax software, or he sits down with his tax accountant, and all of a sudden he finds out, oh, well, these new laws are in place, and you're going to have to pay this, that, and the other thing.
Exactly, and that's why 999 has become so popular. People get it, even if they haven't read the entire analysis about what all of the components are. Intuitively, they get it, they understand it. I can be traveling. I was in New York City last week doing a series of in-studio interviews, and a cab driver would be driving up the street near Fox Studios, see me because of my signature hat, roll down the window and yell out the window, 999, Mr. Cain. Mr. Cain, 999. Jimmy Z, I'm beginning to think that my last name is 999, the way people are greeting me. But I'm telling you, the enthusiasm from cab drivers, truck drivers, people that I run into in the restaurants, it's incredible. It's something that's simple, specific, and they get it. That's what the American people are looking for.
You know what I think is invigorating about 999 is that for probably 15, 20 years in my life, you get together with friends at dinner, and Americans for a long time have wanted some kind of flat tax system. And yes, in politics, the idea never really took hold until 999. Your plan has actually been taken seriously, and that's the most invigorating aspect, I think.
It is. And one of the things that we did by design is the first 9 is a flat tax, corporate flat tax. The second 9 is a flat tax on income after you deduct contributions. And the third one is a national sales tax of 9%. We wanted to bring the flat tax supporters on income to the table with the national sales tax people, because there's a movement out there for both of those. But every time someone tries to just pass the fair tax, you're going to get the flat tax people who's going to push back. When Steve Forbes tried to pass the flat tax on income, you got the fair tax, national sales tax people pushing back. So by giving both of them a piece of what they want. I think this is why it has connected with so many people, because they are now seeing this is one way to really get some serious tax replacement going. And I think that the fact that we bring both of those parties together is one of the reasons that it has become so popular.
I have a final question for you today. I was talking with a friend of mine, Deborah J.M. Smith. She has a website, informingchristians.com, and she brought up a great question. Is it out of the question that Herman Cain would run for office again at some point in the future?
I never say never. However, based upon what I know today, based upon what I feel today, and based upon the fact that my biological clock is still going, Jimmy Z,
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to sacrifice 4 or 5 years of my life in order to go through this sausage grinder again, because I don't have an interest in running for a governor's or senator's position or congressman or anything like that, not because I'm above those. It's just that I want to be in a position to really have a major impact on the future direction of this country. And what I'm discovering is that I can have as big an impact mobilizing people, mobilizing we the people outside of the structure, as well as maybe easier than being on the inside.
Sure.
So this is why I encourage people to go to CainConnections.com and become one of what we describe as an army of Davids. You see, when I was running, people saw me as David taking on Goliath. Well, David is not running anymore. So I'm going to create a whole army of Davids called We the People, and I'm asking people to join this army.
I noticed that you have membership is closing in on 500,000 people already.
Yes, sir. In fact, I looked at it just before I went on before I did this tape, and after you play this, I'm going to check and see how much it jumped.
Yeah, well, I think it's great. And once again, the website is CainConnections.com. It sounds like a little bit of similarity between you and Sarah Palin actually working from the outside and
Yes.
and getting more done than you can by getting yourself hammered on the campaign trail.
You're absolutely right, and that's why I'm still speaking out and trying to keep people excited, because remember, like we started this interview, we've got to keep people excited about the possibility of what we can do. We can defeat Barack Obama, but we've got to work hard to do it.
Herman Cain, I want to thank you for being on the Jimmy Z Show. God bless you moving forward, and say hello for me to everyone on your staff.
I will do. Thank you, Jimmy. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it very much. The Jimmy Z Tuesday show continues. I want you to go to CainConnections.com. That link is in the show notes, of course. Put your name and email address in there and join up. Because no matter who ends up being the Republican nominee for president, we are going to need to be organized to push the GOP in the right direction. I'm Jimmy Z. We'll take a break and come right back. Thanks once again to Herman Cain.
Z.
Hi, Jimmy Z here, inviting you to listen to The Jimmy Z Show at thejimmyzshow.com. Conservative politics with humor, irreverence, and colored by my Christian faith. On demand, 24/7 with new shows every Monday through Friday. The Jimmy Z Show, hated by the left for all the right reasons. Tune in anytime, day or night, at thejimmyzshow.com.
I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.